Yeah. So it,
Okay.
so it is built on a Cardano blockchain. And so, maybe later on in the future, people will have bridges and things like that, where maybe you can be more interoperable. But right now, it's Cardano. It's built on the Cardano blockchain. So,
I like the idea. Nowadays, everybody trying to go to DeFi, a decentralized exchange now because of these situations popping up.
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
that's one of the. I think it's. I don't know. I feel like I mean, I don't know if it's something that somebody, because that like Coinbase has a decentralized wallet too, I think, right? And then also have a regular centralized wallet. But for some reason, quite recently, I was reading that they were trying to remove a certain amount of project from that decentralized wallet because it's not a whole lot of transaction with all the, going on with those projects. So I'm like, what's going on here? This is crazy. I thought it would be doing that on a centralized wallet, like a centralized exchange, like their centralized exchange. I thought it would be doing something like that. Just having them do it on their decentralized,
I think XRP or one of those that removed.
Yep. XRP, XLM, Bitcoin Cash. And I think, I think Ethereum Classic too. It's crazy, but
yeah. I mean, I'll take the opinion of if it's not your keys, it's not your wallet. And so anything else outside of that, they can own, they can freeze. And actually, Coinbase, if you read through their documents, since they're a public company, they openly say if a bankruptcy was to happen or law enforcement was to ask of something, they could freeze or seize anybody's accounts if you have money on there. And so, they're fully regulated. If you are trading on there, I would say make the trade, then move it to your own personal wallet. But as far as leaving it on Coinbase, that's a big risk.
Man, it's been a lot going on. So, gentlemen, let's see here. We got 3 more minutes, and then we can get going here. Yes, we can get going. It's nice to see everyone here ready and all fired up to go. This is nice. It's one of the things we. And that's one of the things I really saw in your white paper that you really underline. You guys, when you guys wrote that white paper, is the fact that working in our community, the African community, especially some of us that are in this whole space, we are like the front runner. We're gonna have to do a lot of work, especially when it comes to education, And Esther talked a lot about that. Say, hey, our priority, we know everyone in the space that try to develop systems, they're all focusing on scalability, interoperability, sustainability. We want to do that first, but we want to also make sure that we prioritize education, teaching people what a wallet is in the first place. What private key is, what public key is. So, we got work to do. So that
we got a whole lot of work to do. That is so true.
Yes. So.
And that's the reason why we have a custom or a customized approach, to the blockchain solution for our people in our community, because we have a different kind of situation in a way.
Yes.
So that's
That's and they came out too. Have you been looking at any African focused projects trying to get on you guys' decentralized exchange? Any partnership with that?
Yeah, there's actually one called Thrift, THRIFT. I think they're a Nigerian-based company, and they're building basically a decentralized finance wallet and platform to help Nigerians and then eventually more Africans be able to save and lend on their platform. And so that's one that it's just joined our Genius X program maybe a month or 2 ago.
That's nice. It's nice to see, our community is being represented too in this space. So, all right. So guys, Welcome everyone. Welcome to a conversation with the Liberian Bitcoin Blockchain and Cryptocurrency Forum. We are pretty much educational-based content group. One of our priorities is to focus more on education. We want to be a part of that, making sure that the idea of blockchain reaches everyone and trying to start the thinking process of the younger generation to start thinking about blockchain, because they're going to be the future developer for sure. In our community here, like I said, we are primarily focused educational based. We don't do any sort of financial advising. We don't tell people what to buy. We don't try to entice people. We don't try to persuade people in our community. We pretty much just provide pure information. And people have a mind of their own and an intellect of their own. They can make their own decision. So we're very thankful for all of you that show up in our audience. And most especially, we want to say thank you to our guests for coming. These guys are pretty busy people and they took the time to be here and to be a part of this educational process to make sure that people in our community, which is the overall African community, can have a sense of what blockchain is specifically. I like to talk more about the technology and also what crypto is too, and other different components of the space like NFTs and things like that. So before we tap into our discussion and the conversation here, I will just give you an overview of how the conversation will go today. So we are going to start with open general questions, and we'll be asking those questions, and then our guests can kind of maybe give answers or response to the question. And you can decide to respond to those general questions. You can decide not to. And then after maybe a couple of general questions, we're going to go into specific questions to specific guests, because everyone we invited is somehow specialized in certain area. And the cool thing about this conversation we're having here is we have representation from different area of the space. We have a developer with us. We have a researcher with us. Someone who spent most of their time analyzing what's been developed and prospects of actually being something important to the community and to investors. And then we also have someone who, is in the exchange area where some of those projects are kept or stored, decentralized exchange technically. So that's a really good wrapped up of the representation we have here. And now I think we'll take this time just to go around and do a quick intro of our guest and what they do currently, and then what got them into crypto and blockchain. So we'll start with my brother Dikemba. So what got you into crypto, and what are you working on currently?
Yeah, well, I won't make it too long, but I've been in crypto for a while, since maybe 2017. I really got into it, read about blockchain and everything. Like most people, I started out buying Bitcoin, but then as I read about smart contracts and Ethereum, I saw, wow, this is something that's really going to change the world, and having the type of systems that can potentially be set up. And so since then, I got fascinated. And I've always been involved in crypto since then. Over the past year, I got into crypto full time. And so I work for a company called Genius Yield, and also its sister company, Genius X. I'm the head of finance there. Genius Yield on one side is a decentralized finance platform where we're building a decentralized exchange and also a yield optimizer. On the other side is Genius X. They're a Web3 accelerator for blockchain-based startups. So if you're a startup coming up in the crypto space, and you may be good at developing, but maybe you need more help with marketing, strategy, raising funds, connecting with investors, or go-to-market strategy, then the accelerator helps you with all of that. So since we have a team of experts that can help you set up your legal entity and lead you through all the extra stuff that you got to do to run a business. And so even on the development side, we need help with that. So we're Web3 accelerated. We have over a dozen startups in our program right now, and we help them come to hopefully from the beginning stage to successfully launch their products and tokens into the crypto space. So I think that's it for y'all.
That's amazing. And Dikemba was one of the guest speaker at the Cardano Summit in Houston. So he talked a lot about their project and what they're working on. And definitely, thank you, Dikemba.
No.
Ernesto.
Yes, sir. Yeah. So for me, I've been in the space of data for ever so long. I would say since 2005, I first interacted with data. And I've been working, I worked in Africa for MTN for over 6 years. And then I had some experience working with the highest level of tech in Liberia at the time when I was there in MTN. So, and then moving to the US, I have also had experience in working with some companies, working with data. And I'm very fascinated about technology, in terms of new technologies and how it can impact people and also impact community where I'm from. I'm also like politically inclined too. When you're from Liberia, from Monrovia, you have to have some kind of political fire under you in a way, because you definitely will have to have it. So for that reason, I always think about my people whenever I look at technology. And when cryptocurrency came about, blockchain, I got into it late. I got into it late because I'm a little bit skeptical whenever new things come. But when I got into it, I started to trade a little bit, and then I just went off the trading aspect and look at the technology itself. And one of the things I found in technology is the fact that it have this piece of transparency that involved in it. And I realized transparency is one of the major issues we have in my community, or where I'm from, and also accountability and tracing public funds and those kind of things. I thought to myself, I said, this solution or this technology, if implemented well, could be a game changer, not just for the fact of investment and getting you, but also for the fact of changing a community or speeding up projects, speeding up development in a sense, because one of the major issues that we face in Africa, Liberia, or many countries, the fact that mismanagement, is the one that really caused the country development to stall. Yes. You have a lot of money being wasted. People spend money on projects that is not really necessary. Apart from even the corruption aspect, you have a lot of money leaking out. It's just leaking. It's like, so with this kind of technology, you can help to speed things out in a more effective way. So I say, no, you know what? Let me pay attention to this. That's how I get involved in understanding the blockchain better and better. And then I realized that, okay, blockchain is great, but I started to observe the current blockchain that exists. I realized that we need to create something for ourselves. So that's how I started. But I'll get into that later on, why I thought that we need to create something for ourselves, versus what is already existing, right? But that's how I got in this space, and I'm still learning. I would like to say I'm not really an expert in this. I'm just a visionary. I'm somebody who believes in a change, and I believe with the right technology and the right people on board, things can happen. So this is a start, and here with you guys is also part of the movement. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yes, and brother Ernesto is like I say, they just came out with a white paper and love it. I read every square inch of it, and we'll be doing another show with his team. We're planning to do that to at least talk about their project specifically. So, brother Stephen.
Yes, sir. So for me, I've always been fascinated with financial literacy, financial education. So when cryptocurrency, a friend of mine from business school reached out to me and told me a lot about crypto, and I took the perspective of, let me look at it, let me do my due diligence, and I did some research. And on doing my research, I just went head on, just focus on getting to know what this technology is all about and how it's going to transform the way we live, right? So And in doing that, at first, I took this whole perspective of being self-taught. And how can this information not only benefit me, but benefit my community and benefit folks that I love and care for, and how it can help them invest in the present to secure the future. So after that, I decided, listen, it's good to study all these things and do your own research and whatnot, but you have to have some formal education behind it too. So what I did, I teamed up and went to the MIT Media Lab for about 6 weeks, where I took a course that was taught by Gary Gensler, and then also the coordinator for the MIT lab. So there's 6 weeks intense course that breaks everything down about cryptocurrency from the very onset in terms of how you define money to everything you can think about. Everything from the internet of value, get into the specifics of regulation, you name it, right? And where we are currently and where is crypto going. So just understanding that roadmap, understanding where the technology is about, and getting it from a high level where people have been doing in-depth research and analysis at the MIT lab. It was just fascinating to take that time and just dive into it and understand this technology. So for people who are on the edge, who are still second guessing, you know, part of mine, my mission here today is to make sure those people can come on board full time to see the value in this, the value proposition of what this thing can do for not just you, but your community, your family. How can you create a legacy? How can you create generational wealth? By doing the right thing. And apparently we're in the right season for it. You know, I know people are afraid and everything right now, but we dive into the level of specificity where we can give them some advice, some not necessary advice, but some education, because, you know, we don't give financial advice, you know, do your own research, but we'll be able to give some guidance in terms of education. So that's what I'm here for. I'm excited to be on this platform and on this podcast with all these great panelists, and I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely. It's nice to have you, Brother Stephen. And I'll tell you guys this, man. If you want to know anything about any project in the crypto space, this is the guy you call. I don't know how he does it. That takes you know, and for a guy who's been in the space too, you guys are in the space, it's really hard to know everything about a project. He just does a whole lot of reading, you know? So, and Stephen, Gary Gensler, your instructor at MIT there, that guy used to be a friend of crypto. What happened, man?
I know, and that's the thing, right? So Gary went left on us. So it's one of those things where, you know, but you know, even as a professor, he still had his biases or his own perspective on being a little skeptical, even as he taught the class, right? He had some reservations and whatnot, saying, listen, in order for this thing to go mainstream, we have to have common sense regulation. And he was more aggressive on the regulation, and the other professor was more, let's come to the middle, let's give and take, let's make sure things are sensible, and we can get regulation and give up a little bit more. But he was always on the other side of it. But at the end of the day, we see where he is now and what he's saying in his current role. But again, nothing can stop this freight train that is coming. Crypto is coming, nothing can stop it, no matter what. And the biggest thing is, with folks like that, when people get afraid of a new asset or asset class potentially that can be defined as an asset class, when they see what it will do and how it will uproot what they used to, you know, it scares people. So, but at the end of the day, just like the internet, people doubted the internet that it will not survive, it won't work. Look where we are today with the internet. So now this next thing is going to be bigger than the internet. This is the internet of value, and what this thing is going to drive. People need to get on board before they get left behind.
Absolutely, absolutely. So that brings us to our first general discussion topic here today. So based on the negative publicity that's been going on in the whole crypto space right now, especially when we talk about FTX and Terra, the most recent big ones, right? What is your analysis of how the crypto space can prevent such situation from reoccurring? So, because there's really bad publicity for the space. And if we're going to, as a space, succeed, we want to make sure that we're doing the right thing. So what would be your analysis or suggestion as to what could be done to make sure that, you know, this situation of Terra and FTX doesn't happen again? That would be, Dikemba, if you can touch on that first, because you're the exchange guy.
Yeah. Well, I think a big part of it is education, I think, and re-education. Most people, we've been trained to 100% trust institutions with all of our data, our money, and everything's going to be okay. Depending on what country you live in, obviously, sometimes the government has created an aspect where that trust is backed up by some government enforcement. I think with FTX and Terra, people just had a huge amounts of trust in these companies just because they had a big name and a lot of money. And so educating yourself about the risks of these companies, even if no matter what country you're at, is number one. Number two is looking at your other options of, can we do this ourselves? You know, so there's decentralized exchanges. There are personal crypto wallets where you can own the crypto yourself. You know, throughout this FTX crash and Terra crash, you never heard anything bad about decentralized exchanges like Uniswap. Those kept working fine because there's no custody of the assets. It goes straight to the person's personal wallet. Everybody who had, all my friends I know who had their crypto in their personal wallets, there was no complaints because they didn't lose anything. FTX can't take your money from your own personal wallet because they don't have the keys. And so if we're able to educate ourselves more on those aspects and lean more towards those instead, whether it's self-custody or a way for us to manage it ourselves, I think those are the best learning lessons, unfortunately, from the FTX and Terra. And I think with the Terra also too, that's another aspect, you know, have decentralized exchange versus and personal custodialship versus Terra, which obviously some things happen with the way it was created, it being an algorithmic coin, but it also takes education as well. Do you actually understand the crypto asset that you're holding? Do you understand leverage ratios? Do you understand what happens if the collateral asset drops 50% in price? Do we understand it, or we just say, oh, it's UST, US dollar, everything is fine? Because that's what a lot of, obviously, some people were believing. So there just have to be an education aspect of people saying, hey, I just can't blindly trust these developers, or blindly trust just because I see a lot of money going in and out. I have to research and actually understand the risks.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Stephen and Ernesto, you want to touch base on that?
Well, when it comes to the regulations, and I think there's changed. He just spoke on a lot of it. But one of the things I also observe is the fact that, you know, the space, even from the regulation standpoint, and the industry itself is still so young that the regulators themselves still trying to figure out certain things, you know, to put in place. That's the reason why they have not really gotten to a point where they have complete control of the situation, you know. So like situation like FTX, well, I don't know if they have enough regulations for centralized exchange yet. And I don't know how they classify it. Is the classification is it good enough that should they request more information from these kind of exchanges that centralized? Should they have more control? And which government agencies should control that? You know, because everything before crypto came was based off of previous operations or standards, you know, in the industry or in government. So now the government have a very short time to change things around. You know, government working is very, very, I would say, old school. You know, everything I have there, it takes a long time before you get approved to the next stage. So I believe as time goes by, the regulation will improve. And as regulations improve, the industry, crypto industry, will get mature to the level where we'll have less of these things happening, and the buyer players will be out of the market, and the people who mean well will stay in the market. And that's why I think might happen. So I applaud the U.S. government actually for the stand they have taken in regulations and other things. And, you know, even though they have been a little bit too harsh sometimes or confused sometimes, but they're learning from the European counterparts. They're opening some avenues for innovations, because this is innovation. If you close it up, then that means that the other world will go faster, you know. I also heard that Arizona and other states, now they have sandboxes, regulation sandboxes, where you can basically go and register your business there for crypto business without any license, under the sandbox regulations, and test your innovation for like a year or two. Test it. If it works, you know, you have a limit of how many people can sign up or whatever it is. But the idea is, people have innovation and idea. They have to experiment with these things. And if you don't create an environment for them to do it, then you will lose the technology. And that's why I think the Americans are understanding more, in that the regulation is now being more flexible in a way to make way for new innovations and other things. And I think they should apply to Liberia too, in Africa. I think the governments over there should understand that this is the technology time. We need to start getting the regulation now, ASAP. There's no time to waste. Regulate crypto, or you have a sandbox. Just create a sandbox where you say, come and experiment with the oversight of the government. Let them know what you're doing. Let them know who doing what. It's not like people in Liberia now running crypto undercover on the black market. That is not good. You want it to be in the eyes of the government. And then in a way, you can see innovation starting. That could be the next point, the next area where great innovation might come out from. But I don't think the governments over there are even thinking about these kind of things. And I think this is an opportunity for people in the diaspora, especially the diasporans, to like those that have influences and connection, to tell the governments, the regulators over there, you guys are missing out on the next big thing. You have to get up to speed. Even the US was behind. They are now catching up.
Right.
You know, so that's what I can say about regulation for now. But yeah.
Right. That brings us to a very interesting point. You know, like there's been a whole lot of obviously the regulators are trying to go in balance with the engineers and the developer and the business around cryptocurrency, because if they're too harsh, then that means they will lose all their engineers. These guys will leave the country and go to somewhere else. Now, you can't be too harsh. You can't be too, so it's kind of like that balance. But definitely, we do need regulations. And to our audience there too, if you're new to the whole crypto space, just to keep you up to date, there's been a whole lot of conversation about making sure that the space gets some level of transparency and trust. And some of the organizations that work along with the movement of money and the trading of those cryptocurrencies, some of them haven't been really transparent. So that's been creating a whole lot of negative atmosphere for the space. But that has nothing to do with the utility of blockchain itself. So it's almost like, I want you to think about it this way. Think about somebody doing fraud on the internet. That has nothing to do with the internet itself. It's just a bad actor on the internet engaging in fraudulent activity. So that's the battle crypto is in. And I'm pretty sure most of you watching too have been hearing a lot about crypto and some of the negative press associated with it. But I want you to be able to make that distinction, that the technology itself is like science and math. It doesn't favor anybody. Math doesn't like you, math doesn't hit you. Mathematics is just mathematics. So just bad people acting. Now, next question goes to Stephen. So one of the things that I've heard from a lot of people when you start talking about crypto and blockchain is the fact that, considering all the condition that's been going on in the space currently, what suggestions do you have for folks that have been fed all those negativities and all those press negativity on the media about crypto, and not just crypto, but blockchain, about getting into that space? Or what suggestion would you put up to them?
I think the first thing, the best thing for new investors or people who've been getting all the negativity, and it's scary, even in terms of where we are and the market conditions. I think they need to start with education. Education is the first piece, right? How do you educate yourself about and make yourself more knowledgeable instead of just being fearmonger or be worried about, what everybody's saying on you? Do your due diligence, do your research, look into it for yourself. Because at the end of the day, you want to make sure you make an informed decision, right? And I think forum like this, one action that I think is good is for people to seek, seek out the Liberian Bitcoin blockchain and cryptocurrency forum for more educational information. You guys are doing a wonderful job, a phenomenal job in terms of training, in terms of knowledge sharing, recommendation, and we know it's not financial advice. And there's so many other data out there, so many other books out there, so many other things out there, but at least you can give guidance and whatnot. So that's one thing you can do. But there's so many other training and secondary data. Try to make sure you take your time to learn it for yourself and what people are saying. Don't just rush with what people are saying and the noise that is out there in terms of, hey, it's bad time, you lose your money, this thing is so risky. People will say everything, right? But until you can understand stuff, another thing I want people to focus on is understand the bear market and the bull market. Understand the cycle, because when you understand that, you know what area you're in and what time you're dealing with. So you won't just get fearful and worry about, oh, I don't want to jump in now, I don't want to get in. You will know this is one of the best times to get in when you understand that, hey, this is the bear market. Consistently over time, this is the nature of the bear market. This is a wonderful opportunity now. When you do your due diligence, you do your research, you understand crypto, you know what assets you want to play in. You know the functionality, you look at the white papers, you look at the roadmap, you look at the tokenomics, you understand what it takes and what they're trying to do. What business problem are they solving? You want to make sure you understand that value proposition. And when you understand that, you know where to put your money. But you also want to understand what's a rug pull, so you don't put yourself in the wrong projects, right? So those are some of the stuff, and don't get carried away because they say this thing is running out. Don't rush into things because of FOMO. Pay attention to those kind of stuff. So when you understand that, and this whole noise about different influencers, not everybody you can trust. Everybody will be out there giving you information. What information is good for you? So be mindful of who to trust in this space. Not every influencer is a good influencer, and some of them don't even let you know they're a paid influencer and they're getting money for these things, right? So you follow them, they pull the plug under you, you lose all your money, they got paid, they don't care, they move on. So pay attention to those things. I think additionally, paying attention to the micro and macro conditions, the leading and lacking indicators will help people to take away that fear and that panic. I think that's a big piece of it. But people need to define their own strategy. What is it that I want to do? What my strategy look like? Is it a short-term, middle-term, long-term? What am I driving? How do I drive my strategy? I think that's a big piece that people miss out on in terms of having a strategy. And then my last thing I will advise before I talk a little bit about blood in the street is the fact that you cannot perfectly time the market. No one should make that mistake. But what you can do as things bottom, you want to take advantage of dollar cost averaging and get into it after you've done your research, your due diligence, you know what projects are more aligned to your strategy, you go for it. Because guess what? As more regulation comes, as we enter and get into the bull market by 2025, right? As we start to make stride in those areas now where people start to get these massive gains, you want to make sure you understand when to even take profit. Don't sit there and everything go back down and we'll get into another circle again where we go back into another bear. So knowing when to take, set your strategy. If it's 25%, 50%, 75%, start taking profit. Don't sit and say this thing will run forever. Be smart about it. That's where you understand the different circle. But I know sometimes people get carried away and people have stuff to say, this thing will just be blowing forever. Don't let greed trick you, because you'll be left with the bag and left frustrated and say, whoa, what happened? So, we know how that is. So always be prepared to take profits. That's what I would tell people. So with the negative thing, don't get carried away, because that's how the market conditions are. And, I would tell you, Baron Rothschild, he had a saying, right? He said, the time to buy is when there's blood in the street. We're seeing it now. There's blood in the street. He said, even if the blood is yours. And that's how, the people have been able to really take advantage. And that set of mindset, that school of thought, is what we call the contrarian investment mindset, right? They focus and know that in the worst time, when things seem so worse, that's the time to buy. Because guess what? If you can only do that, I tell folks, there's 3 or 4 things you pay attention to when you do these things in the bear market. One, you want to take advantage of it because you might not see some of these low anymore for a long time when adoption and regulations take full circle, right? So things will get to the point where price will start to level up, where they won't go as low as they're going now, right? In this different circle of the market. Secondly, you want to accumulate significant volume. Get that volume as much as you can, as it aligns with your strategy, get your volume going, you know, and then after that, you want to make sure you be patient during this bad time and things bottling. You keep doing your dollar cost average, stay patient, still true to yourself. Don't let people make you panic every little thing you sell. People who makes money in the long term are people who hold for a long time and they're patient. So you accumulate your volume, you're patient, and then at the end of the day, even when things going sideways in the bear market, don't rush to sell. Be patient. Be patient. Get your volume and be patient. Eventually, when we enter the bull, be smart about taking your profits. And that's why I would tell people, stay the course, believe in your strategy. Don't listen to every other voice as, oh yeah, people will talk too much. Be disciplined and hold on to your convictions, you know? And that's how you accumulate wealth. That's how you make life-changing money. You know, I'm talking about generational wealth in this space. And the opportunity is there. So it's all about you sticking to your strategy and being steadfast.
Absolutely. I knew a friend of mine who invested in crypto and made $10. He made the next day he made $10 profit and cashed out right away and say, oh man, I gotta go get some Chipotle. So don't be like that.
No.
Let that $10 sit around for a little bit, you know? So, but I guess if you do want Chipotle, I guess, you know, you must as well get your Chipotle. Okay, that's a really good point there, Stephen. And we get back to the condition in the market again, especially with the exchanges and all of the, you know, because it's almost like it's becoming very consistent here, even though it's technically banned just very few exchanges, but the publicity of that has taken over the entire space. So the next question for you, Brother Dikemba, is there's a lot of talk right now about the regulation of cryptocurrency and transparency, right, of crypto trading platforms. Obviously, this is something like what you guys are working on regarding the amount of reserve they keep. You know, I'm not sure if that applies to decentralized systems, you know? Can you make that, if it does apply to decentralized system, what are you guys doing about it? What is your company doing to make sure that you are compliant with the proof of reserve? I know there's a new term now in this space. Proof of reserve is for the exchanges. So you guys are a decentralized exchange. Does the whole concept of proof of reserve apply to you guys? If it does, what are you guys doing about it?
Yeah, so definitely. I know the whole proof of reserve is basically a summation that for these centralized exchanges, you deposit your Bitcoin or your whole crypto on there, and the proof of reserve is supposed to be a way for people to independently verify that you actually have that crypto on your books, that you haven't loaned it out, and so you can make good on all the deposits if people come to withdraw. Those just apply to centralized exchanges, and I think, you know, that goes back to a traditional banking model where, you know, a lot of banks don't keep 100% of the cash you deposit. They lend out a percentage of that to make money on it, and that's how they make their profit. And so for these decentralized exchanges, it's totally different. It's totally different setup. We don't keep custody of anybody's projects. You don't deposit it at all. You have your personal wallet, you plug into the exchange, you make the trade, and then you can, you know, check the blockchain, check the history, and the decentralized exchange through smart contract operations conducts that trade and sends your asset to one wallet and sends the other asset you traded for, you agreed to, back to your wallet. And so there's never no part where we're holding anything. you know? And so that doesn't really apply to decentralized exchanges, which I think makes it better because there's no risk that no human can come and take your assets and give themselves a loan and go buy, you know, some mansions in the Bahamas or anything like that. And so you have that ability and transparency of that. And I say the second part for the transparency part comes from is that all these trades, at least for public blockchains like Cardano or Ethereum or Bitcoin, you can see all of those transactions online through the blockchain, exactly when it happened, how much, and to what address. And so that's the transparency aspect. Now, I do think on the other side of that, for centralized exchanges, because I just don't think they're just 100% going to go away. If we do have regulation, the regulation should be focused on trying to create standards. And by that, I mean standards for companies or projects that people should look at. And I think cryptocurrency has opened up a whole new opportunity set for people who previously didn't have an opportunity set. And what I mean by that is that, you know, for startups, for example, if you look at startups that come up, you know, you look at the statistics, you know, 10% of startups fail within the first year and over 70% fail within the 2 to 5 years, and 90% of all of them fail altogether. And so right now, what people are seeing with a whole lot of cryptocurrencies that they bought tokens of these startups, that so many are failing. And they think, well, I mean, some are scams, but a lot of them, it just didn't go well. Maybe it wasn't the right team. Maybe they didn't have enough resources. Maybe they didn't have people that execute. If you look at many of the tech startups or the 2000 .com boom, 95% of those guys don't exist anymore, even though some of them got millions and billions of dollars of investor money. And so crypto has that same aspect, except now, instead of the big venture capital and high network people, anybody, whether you just have $50 or $100 worth of crypto, can now participate in those startups and take on that same risk. And so I think for regulation, it should be focused on trying to create standards so people can better judge the risk of those crypto assets. And so, yeah, whether it's details about the owners in the background, open sourcing the technology, at least recommending that all of these companies do a security audit, those type of things can, I think, over time, hopefully lessen the risk of it. Because I mean, at the end of the day, you have some people who have maybe little to no skill can get on Twitter, get in Reddit, make an app, then start putting things out there, and maybe they don't know what they're doing, and then all of a sudden, all the money's gone. And so that's the focus on it. And I guess that's another part of the education aspect. I think for my company in particular, Genius X, since we are a Web3 accelerator, what we are doing is that we are looking at all of these companies and we are doing KYC and background checks on all the owners to make sure these people are who they say they are, that they actually exist, and they have the background that they say they do have. And so, and then we're also, on the other hand, we're making our own judgment call about whether we think the project that they're building is going to have real utility and value. And so for us, when you look at our companies, and you can participate through our upcoming token for the Genius X platform called Gens X, is that we are trying to add an extra level of scrutiny before these companies go on, companies that we utilize. And so there's still a matter of risk. You have to do your own research. And like I said before, those statistics still apply. 90% of these guys are not going to make it through. And so you have to do your own research with all this, but having more transparency is the best thing to look at. And I would say, just personally, if you're looking at a project, and you should be a little bit skeptical if the people are hiding who they are. You know, if it's a bunch of anonymous developers, you should be a little bit more skeptical if they are not planning to open source part of the code. If it's completely closed source and you don't know who it is and things like that, you should be more skeptical if they're promising returns. We promise 1,000% in 3 months. Things like that are certain red flags that people can look at. But yeah, so I know there was a long-winded answer, but that's kind of my whole viewpoint.
Good question. Just an extension too of that question. I want you to take 1 minute to answer this question. I'm trying to figure out how does the whole decentralized exchange system works. So a decentralized exchange, to our audience here, is an exchange that's pretty much operating and running itself. Obviously, it was created by some sort of centralized entity, right? Some centralized group created it. My question is though, how does that group get paid after creating a decentralized system and publishing it? Do they get paid from the transaction fees? How does that process work in 1 minute?
Yes. So 1 minute. So you have a centralized company. Let's say, you know, me, Stephen, and Ernesto, we all get together. We create a decentralized exchange, which is a smart contract application, and we created, let's say, on the Cardano blockchain. So that's on the Cardano blockchain, lives on the blockchain. Anybody can interact with that, you know, and we create a front end website to interact with that. So you can go on there and you can trade digital assets on back and forth. All the smart contract does is that it manages the exchange of those assets. That's all it does. I have asset A, I want to sell 100. Steven sees it, he want to buy 100 with asset B. We use the contract and it does the exchange. How do this decentralized exchange, the people who made it make money, is that there's a trade fee associated with it. That maybe we're charging 0.3% on each trade, which you may commonly see. Part of that 0.3% goes to the liquidity provider. The majority goes to the liquidity provider, who's the person providing liquidity for you to trade on. And then a percentage of that is taken also and given back to the developer as well. And so they can have built in that, hey, anybody that uses my smart contract, 0.5% of it or 0.1% is going to come back to my wallet as a compensation.
Interesting. That makes sense. So that brings us to our next question to Brother Ernesto here. So Dikemba is building an exchange, a decentralized exchange. And Ernesto is actually building a product. Ernesto and his team, the Alkebuleum team, it's not just Ernesto, it's his team. They're building this project, and it's going to be it's going to be on some sort of exchange so that folks can have access to it, you know, in terms of the investment part of it. So now, from a developer standpoint, Ernesto, first of all, what is Alkebuleum, the blockchain you guys are creating? And what are some of the challenges you guys have been facing as a developer trying to create this ecosystem here?
Yes, thank you for the question. So Alkebuleum is the project. It seeks to build a blockchain with ownership that points to Africa, or the African diaspora in particular. And one of the reasons why that we thought that was important was because, one, again, ownership; two, distribution of wealth; three, reach. Reach in the sense that we are discussing the blockchain and crypto technology, but if you go to Africa now, there are few people who know about the technology, and there are few people who are benefiting from that technology. And if you really just use the current systems and current way of the technology is flowing now, it would take, I don't know how many years before people back home start to actually utilize or benefit from the technology. So when I say reach, we're trying to get this technology to be utilized, and also people should benefit from the technology over there. And I don't think most of the projects are concentrating on with the benefit from Africa in our manner. Any project that try to go Africa now, their objective to make profit from Africans. It's not ready to make Africans make profit for themselves in a way. So our focus is basically the reverse. We trying to see how best Africans can basically make profit from this this project or from this technology, in a reverse manner. So we're building this technology from ground up in a way that we can share distribution of wealth among our people. We also will be having ownership And most importantly, if you have these blocks or these nodes, right, being utilized in Africa. So you have different countries, you have different owners of nodes. Now you start thinking about cloud computing in a way too. You start thinking about infrastructure computing in a way too. It's not just about a blockchain only, but people now start understanding that if you can be able to maintain hardware, if you can be able to like set up hardware, you can be able to like connect hardware. So think about if we own our own mining operation in Liberia now, just all of us here will have a one mining station there right now. We just set up a computer with a lot of space, a whole server, right, that is running. Now we have many of those servers around Africa. We have a whole network of infrastructure. We can do more things on our infrastructure. We don't have to put our information on Google Cloud or maybe Amazon anymore, but we think about the future. So I think this is not just about owning the blockchain, but it will create the environment where it will expose the people to a lot of different aspect of the modern technology that the world is going towards, infrastructure, decentralization, the blockchain, talking about cryptocurrency, all the different things. So that's some of the aspect of the reason why we created it, and we're trying to create it. And most importantly, is to solve problems in Africa and in the diaspora. Most importantly, number one of the problem we have is corruption. Corruption, tax evasions, people not paying the taxes. You have excessive spending from government officials, and even in the private sector also, and even in the general population themselves. Corruption have been so enshrined in the population that they see as a normal way of life. And even if you discuss about alternative, they see the alternative abnormal. And if you are corrupt, they think that you're cool. And if you're not corrupt, they think that you call it ballet or you fisi. So there's a culture that has been created among the people back home where they kind of side with corruption, and it's very bad because it affects them, where it become a way of life, so it become normal for them. So we think that technology can help to change the other things, and with the blockchain technology, the ways structure, with the transparency of having it, we can do a lot of things with it. Number one, programmable money. Programmable money is one of the things that I see to be a game changer for Africa, for a lot of the projects that can go on. If you can take a project, your low project or big project, and you plan a project out, you have different phases of the project, and all the different phases, you have budgets that is planned for each of the phases. Now, if you can tokenize these different budgets or different phases of the project, you know exactly how the estimated amount of tokens you assign to a specific phase, right? Is an estimate. Then the actual is what you see on the blockchain, which is decentralized. So basically, every activity of the project is being stored on a blockchain, which is transparent for all to see. I don't see any way for somebody to go and do any kind of form of corruption, because any activity you do is recorded on the blockchain. And the project now, you'll be able to realize every bit of what you invest into it, because everything has been tokenized and everything is being seen. And each project have a different version of a token. So basically, you've seen things in a way that you can analyze it. You can do your accounting, you do your research, your report, and everything. At the end of the day, private sector can benefit from this. The government can benefit from this, and you can have the people in general utilizing it in this, right? I've been seeing videos online where people talk about the banking sectors. I saw a video recently, a guy was speaking like in Liberia, the banking sector is basically just a loaning system. They give you loan. It's just a way to like strangle the startups, or like the businesses that trying, the small businesses, they're strangling them in a way. They say they give you loan, but at the end of the day, the loan is more like they're stealing from you, the banks, But I'm also looking at decentralization, DeFi now. The whole world is being connected. People around the world wants to give loans out for returns, like the brother just spoke about using all those things, right? If you have a decentralized a platform or decentralized way of operating, you won't have these monopolies operating like that anymore. You have businesses getting loans from different sources. They can be able to do their businesses, make profits, and pay back. And then whenever they pay back, they have like a credit score kind of system that is involved. So when you can pay back regularly, your score improve. If you're now a good loan payer, your score decrease. Always recording a blockchain. There's no secret. So those who are a good payer or not, those who business are improving or not. You have Africa developing very fast, because small businesses are the one that develop a nation, right? So we believe there's so many different ways of applying the blockchain, right? Or applying this technology to Africa that you can build a youth and for the benefit of the people and in general, economically for everybody else. So that's the reason why we started this project to build our own blockchain. Building their own blockchain also, it depends on the cost. You know, like the brother said, all these different projects have some centralized entity behind them that decide what the cost would be. You know, for example, if you have a blockchain that is for Liberia, you know the people's situation there, you know what they're trying to achieve. You know, you will customize the thing, the prices based on the environment that is there. That's some of the reason why it's important that we have something that we can customize in a way that can work for our people in that direction. You know, other things could be even like the availability of different skills of different people. The people in the village also contribute to national growth, economics. But how can they get involved? You know, the wallet system. How can we customize the wallet system in a way that our people can utilize it, the same wallet system? You know, you have the private key so long, you have the public key so long. People are confused. Like, how do we know what is private key and public key? There's so much education got to come to, but also on the technology side, what really technologists can do to still to customize this technology for our people that basically in those villages, because it doesn't matter where you are nowadays. You know, for me, I don't see education as a barrier anymore. I think people in the village, the old man and the papine, can actually utilize this thing if it's customized for them to be able to understand it, right, and utilize it. It's all about we that develop it. We have to take that into consideration. But the thing is, the West is not thinking about that. So we, from there, we have to think about that and build for our people. So that's the reason why we started this project. But we don't have all the pieces. We don't have all the knowledge. We are faced with a lot of constraints, like the brother asked. You know, we are faced with a legal constraint. We have to understand the legality of what we're doing. You know, we have to understand, like, are we okay? Are we okay to operate? Are we okay to even put a token or a coin? Is it legal for us to do this? What should we do? Should we start up? Should we create a company first, or should we be a nonprofit, or should we do like a Bitcoin? Should we hire the person who created it, who wrote a white paper, and so many other things that we don't know. You know, we have this vision, but we don't know, right? So we in the process of building team. We trying to find, and it's so hard because in our community we have less people who are educated in this industry. We have we don't even know people who help to build blockchain, or Africans or even African American or the diaspora who in this space. We don't know them yet. We're trying to get everybody together. We're trying to say, this, we want to make it decentralized. So there's really no ownership. It's not Ernesto property or anybody else's property. We want to have a solution for all of us. So if we can come together, we have the tech people, but we need the legal people too. We need people who know whether we're actually doing the right thing. Because with technology is one thing, the legal system is another thing. If you're not complying, they will come after you. When they come after you, they will get you.
Yep.
So.
And that's what this, not to cut you off here, Ernesto, that's why I guess this whole space is all about here. You know, making sure that we're bringing people like Dikemba, who's been on the exchange side, is coming here. Stephen, who's a great researcher, can kind of find a needle in a pit of a pile of dirt here. He can figure it out. And then we got developers. So we're all coming together. And that's part of the connection that we need to build an environment where we're supportive and we're a part of the educational process that you guys are doing right now. So we really applaud you. And Ernesto, the Alkebuleum white paper, I think you guys did a wonderful job. And one of the things that really caught my attention too, Alkebuleum is focusing a lot on utility, usability too. It's very important. How can we present this technology to a community of people that are not very well versed with technology as a whole? You guys talked about how you plan to even the address to be basically connected to people's mobile number and also people's email address, you know? And there was conversation about like some of even the validator nodes. Right now, it's so expensive to be a validator that you need all these massive computers, especially if you're validating your proof of stake consensus algorithm. You need a really good equipment. But Alkebuleum is saying, hey, what about we use cell phone nodes? What about we have cell phone nodes? So I want to see how you guys are going to pull that. That's that would definitely be something, you know?
Right, and I like they brought it up, because that's the focus. The focus is we want what our people already used to be transformed into a wealth machine for them. You know,
right.
You know, we ain't trying to create a wheel, in a way a lot, but we're trying to utilize what they're already used to. So we want to customize the technology for them. It's not going to be that fast. It's not going to be that quick, because one thing that we're trying to do is not to do it the wrong way and fail, right? We're trying our best as much as possible to do it the right way, in a way where this project it doesn't matter how long it takes, it will still get to a point where it becomes useful. So behind the project, we have a DAO system we're trying to build, right? And the DAO system, we think, is the foundation of the entire thing we're discussing, because since our focus is on utility, it's on like utilizing this technology for transparency, accountability, and other things that we want to implement, right?
Right.
We think a DAO operations, which is the stage of organization structure for like a decentralization, right? We think we have something in it that when people try to apply over there, it might work for them. Even a low SUSU organization, or SUSU, or maybe any kind of low organization you have, if you apply some level of decentralization, it doesn't matter if it's that extremely decentralized or made level or even less. The idea is that you can benefit from it in a way. So how do we do that? We start ourselves. We said let's create a DAO that we can work in ourselves to build Alkebuleum blockchain. Let's start from that level. Let's understand what a DAO is. This is basically concentrated in the Western countries and other people that we don't interact that much, right? But if we try ourselves, then we get experience, and then when we have the experience, then we can explain to our people in a common way. Now I can put in Liberian English to my people, or my people the other thing here, like how you looking like they, when you in the DAO system, your SUSU money, you put it in the hole. We put it here, we'll keep it, or everybody know how much there, you can interpret it, but we cannot interpret something that we don't understand ourselves. So that's the reason why we got in this space. But the long run, if you read the white paper, and I encourage everybody to read it too, like the brother read it, it's on a website called Alkebuleum.org. Just go ahead and read the white paper, just to understand like what we're going at, what our future plan is, and everything else, and get an understanding of it, and then you can always help us to always adjust things that you think that may be needed to be adjusted. But like I want to say, right, in the white paper, our goal is fully decentralization in the future. We want to go decentralization too. We want to be very decentralized, like the Bitcoin or all the other decentralized platforms.
I think you guys mentioned that in version 3 of the white paper. It's going to be a pure proof of
work.
I think proof of work system.
But we also looking at AI. We're also looking at the fact that the future is AI too. So we want the system. We're looking at the current disadvantage that the current proof of work have now, right? Like the Bitcoin, we're talking about energy consumptions, right? And we're looking at what people condition in Africa, like can they afford these machines? But what we have that I'm really grateful for is we have a team that I want to talk about my team a little bit.
You got one more minute. You got one more minute.
1 more minute. I will call a few names. Ken, the brother called Ken.
Right.
He's on the team, and he's evolving energy production. He's a scientist. He research about energy, and he can build in energy infrastructure that can use the solar panel to transform it into energy. We have that brother on the team, and he's there for a purpose for the future of Alkebuleum, because when we start to build nodes in Africa, we want to utilize the sun and energy from the sun to transform it into something else. And I have another brother called Pudu. Pudu is a communication brother. He's the reason why I'm on the platform right now. And these core brothers I have currently, I can tell you for a fact, I'm very satisfied. I'm very sure the future of Alkebuleum. And if we have more brothers and sisters on board that have different ideas, we can achieve this. It doesn't matter how long it takes. We can achieve this. The more people we have, the shorter it will take to achieve it. The less people we have, we will still achieve it, but it will take longer. So let me leave it right there.
Absolutely, man. That was a really good extension of what Alkebuleum is working on, and what they're prioritizing on, what are some of the challenges they're facing. But obviously, with a really good team around you, man, there's nothing impossible, So now that kind of lead us to, because Alkebuleum is focusing on Pan-Africanism. They're trying to connect Pan-Africans along with their sympathizer, which is anyone who sympathizes with the African struggle, to help in the construction of this ecosystem. Now, this is something that's going to serve Africa. Now, the next question go to you, Stephen. I'm hoping we can kind of answer these questions probably in 2 minutes or two minutes max. So 2.5 minutes max. Next question for you, especially when we're talking about Liberia and Africa, how can cryptocurrency and blockchain, actually the utility of those things, actually solve some of the problems you think we have back home?
Sure, I know that's a brilliant question, right? And he alluded to some of the things, but I think technology will drive innovation, right? It will drive creativity, right? So I think with Liberia, when you look at our infrastructure right now, some people might say certain countries in Africa are not ready for it yet. But here's the thing, it's all about if there's a problem that the blockchain is solving, right? We'll find the resources, we'll find a way to implement the infrastructure, to implement the capacity so that those technology can be applicable. In as much as some of the countries might be, well, we're not up to par or standard or something, but that's what technology is all about. So with Liberia specifically, right? What an opportunity, right? Is a land of opportunity around technology. What does that mean? It means we have a wonderful opportunity for digital transformation. We can do digital transformation using the blockchain, digital transformation using cryptocurrency, by being very intentional in terms of how we look at our educational sector, by looking at how we transform agriculture and forestry, by looking at banking and finance, by looking at our national currency. In the long term, we can even go to the point where we leave fiat money and focus on digital using DLT, right? And the blockchain, right, as a technology to have digital money instead of fiat. We can do that. That can be the longer term thing. That will eradicate a lot of the issues we have, right? Look at what happened with the money that were printed and the issues that happened there in Liberia, disgraceful. We can have the port system using blockchain technology to track each and every movement of things, right? So that things like corruption and stuff like that can be minimized or eradicated. We can do that. We can also make sure that the medical aspect, health and medical aspect that we're so deplorable on right now, we can transform that using the blockchain. In terms of patient records, up-to-date stuff, people are dying from basic health care and health need that by the time they can airlift them to Ghana and other countries, they don't even see their records. Someone will already have high blood pressure and then they give them glucose and give them a drip. So having that kind of stuff ready there available, either by way of people can know on-demand record stuff to show and track, that will help and give our people a longer lifespan. I'm telling you, it's doable. When you look at GSA, the government service agency, our stuff is upside down in terms of how we manage that services. Guess what? Blockchain technology can help transform that space. Voting records, when we talk about transparency with voting, where people can say the election was free and fair, when you look at fungibility, NFTs and stuff, fungibility, non-fungibility, those are stuff that can help, and the blockchain can do that.
Right.
When you look at token and tokenization, token through NFTs can make sure that, guess what? It represents fungibility, it represents capturing voting records and all of that on-demand accessing, counting ballots on demand. We don't have to wait for several days so that people can see that it was transparent, it was fair. Nobody replaced no ballot box or nobody did nothing funny.
Absolutely.
Those are some of the stuff we can do in Liberia. Then on top of that, right, we can look at domestic and foreign policy and the list goes on. But at the end of the day, guess what we will do? This is a key takeaway. One, we'll be able to minimize and eradicate corruption in the government as well as the private sector. Two, we'll be able to create a national ID and attainment record system. That's important. We can create secure records of having living government employees so we can get rid of this ghost government employees thing for good.
For good, yeah.
So we don't have people taking pay.
Stephen, please explain to us, what is ghost employee, please, in short. You got 30 more seconds.
Yes, you have several people who are dead and gone, but their name is still on the record and people are taking their pay. And those people who are alive are stealing from the government. That's corruption. It's bad. You're damaging the country in terms of managing the resources, right? So those are some of the stuff. So we need to create secure record. We have this thing with corruption with even teachers and professors in the school system. Yes. Blockchain can help with that, where we give all the students a blockchain verifiable digital qualification that reduce fraudulent university application process. And when they're traveling abroad to study abroad, the record is just like that. They don't have to fight for someone to go change their grade and do all this silliness. They can see the transparency.
Absolutely.
So that's another thing we do. We can implement learning management where we have machine learning algorithm. We have personalized teaching. We can have global standard so that people don't look down on Africa. You know, we come here, we compete at the highest level. We have what it takes. But guess what? How do they hold us reputable and understand that we can compete? So these things we let them understand and give us the respect that we've earned. And we come here, we do extremely well in these universities abroad. So they need to know that our students are strong and can do that, do these things, right? So all these different things. So I'll just one more minute, let me just 30 more seconds, and I'll say a few more things I think is important, right? With the blockchain, if we use an open ledger recording transaction between companies and the citizens, guess what? It will create transparency and accountability built in, one. It will also make sure that higher level of trust, right, can be there, which is difficult to achieve right now in Liberia. From the financial and banking sector, the decentralized ledger payment system through the blockchain can provide faster payments. It can lower fees. You're talking about things like XRP and all these other different coins. Guess what? Your favorite SLM, they can have that blockchain effect of clearance and settlement systems through the digital ledger to reduce costs on our people, right? We can have instant settlement. We can have reduce capital optimization. We can also reduce counterparty risk. We can also make sure we improve contractual performance due to smart contract, like Brother Dikemba talked about. We can have increased financial solutions in terms of managing crisis. Let's say, for example, you have things like certain illness or certain outbreaks. These things can help with that. We can reduce error handling and reconciliation, right? Here's my key takeaway.
10 more seconds.
This is possible when we implement the correct infrastructure to leverage the blockchain technology and cryptocurrency. Liberia and the rest of the world can enjoy use cases, right? Such as settlements of funds, asset tokenization, lending, trade, finance, safe contract, data integrity, and supply chain optimization. We can do it.
We can do it.
You're saying if Liberia adapt the blockchain and take advantage of the utility, we can have a system that's interoperable with the US and other countries.
Exactly. And you have a lot of companies doing that now. You have Quant, working big time on interoperability. You have Cardano. People are sleeping on Cardano. Cardano and what they're doing in Ethiopia right now, what they're doing in some of the other countries. People say, oh, Cardano gone down, but listen, Cardano is very strategic because the use case Cardano will be able to do when they capture, Cardano is focusing on Africa, while other people saying they look at the US alone, Cardano is looking at big picture. How can we go to Africa right now? It's on top. They need it, it's there, the use case is there. So pay attention to that.
Absolutely. And that gets us to our brother Dikemba. Yeah? Dikemba has a finance background, and so my question to you, brother Dikemba, this is probably a straight off the head question too, is I know you focus on the exchange you guys are building, this decentralized exchange here, but just looking at Africa and with your finance connection here and what you know about finance, what are broken financial systems you think we have in Africa that could be probably lifted by the utility of blockchain technology?
Definitely. So I think, one thing that you see in a lot of African countries is that there's a lack of belief in the currency that makes the currencies that are there, since there's so high inflation. Everybody knows the currency is not worth nothing. The government is printing currency every day, and you see the value of your holdings go down 10, 15, 20% each year. You know, so that's one thing crypto has offered, particularly Bitcoin has been one of the most successful, is that people in a lot of African countries are buying and holding Bitcoin just to protect themselves against the inflation of the domestic currency. So it's becoming this hedge. I think that's one point. I think the second point is international commerce. And I was looking at something, you know, PayPal, we all know about PayPal. But if you look at, I think, Ghana, Nigeria, Ethiopia, and Tanzania, in those countries, if you're a citizen of those countries and you sign up for PayPal, you can send money, but you can't receive it simply because you're a resident of that country. And so that's limited your business. If let's say you have an international business, you can't accept PayPal. And so a lot of the potential customers that use PayPal, they may not be able to contract with you and have transactions with you through that. And so with crypto, if it's Bitcoin, then anybody in the world can buy or sell from you without restriction. And so one of the things I think crypto opens up for Africa is protection of inflation, against inflation, but also being able to transact and interact with people on an international basis. Someone from America or the UK or any other country can loan money to someone in Africa and not care about the person, and not care about the trust of the situation, because it's all dominated through smart contracts. And they're not worried about any risk of the money disappearing, because it's all dominated through smart contracts, which they know the conditions of. Someone in Africa can have an international business and be able to transact using Bitcoin or Cardano or ADA or a different currency. And so those are some key aspects, I think, that would be very, very beneficial, you know, from Africa. And I would say, I guess I can ask a question and see everybody's opinion. I know Ernesto had a lot to say about regulation. But regulation, I think one of the, not risks, there's definitely some benefits of regulation, but one of the risks I see potentially is regulatory capture. Who's going to be the government entity who calls the shots of who get access to the blockchains and who doesn't? Will they be able to say, hey, I don't like the situation with your country, you can't use it anymore. You and the 60 million or 40 million people in your country can't use it anymore. So that's the type of situation we do have now with the international banking system. There are a couple of countries who call the shots for the whole world. And so with crypto, it was specifically made to go against that notion that any one party, centralized party, can control that. And so when we dive into regulation, I'm anxiously watching to see how it turns out, but I hope it doesn't turn into some system where a few big players are calling the shots for everybody, because if it does, then we'll be back where we kind of started at, you know. So
absolutely.
And that's a big point, right? That's a big point, Kemba, and which is the same reason why now, before even Bitcoin came about, right, to have this whole decentralized application. It's not that something similar but digital money never came about. It's just the fact that that centralization piece was crippled when they did that. So decentralized gave us that ability, right, to have that ability where you can just track and monitor. If you have few individuals where you know where they are, people can be spread now with decentralized. You can go capture everybody and make them to do what you want. So with the government side of things, that's where it becomes a slippery slope. We gotta be careful what we ask for. So with this whole regulation, it has to be common sense regulation that makes sense, but not something where they turn everything around to manipulate and control and have this stronghold over all of the whole stuff. Or else the whole competition with fiat money versus digital money and whatnot, and what we're trying to do to get rid of inflation, those will just go out the door, because at that point it loses its true value and nature. So one thing that I propose, or I think is, and we argue about this a lot at MIT, was we need to have some common sense stuff where some of these things we self-govern. Not everything we have to let the government have the control over it. Some of them, those who are the big players in the industry, you have sometimes where you have to self-govern. You take the bad players out because you have certain rules and regulations that you guys hold each other to. And when you see bad players that don't meet those things, or they make excuses, you know you hold them to account. So we have to find a way where, yes, the government happy to some degree, where people know that institutional investors can be secure that my keys, my investment is protected with the whole FDIC or whatever, but at the same time, right, we make them have that peace of mind, because that's the only way where adoption will move exponentially too and move fast. And then you won't find the institutional investors or the VCs just sitting on the sideline. Most of them will be more comfortable coming in and pouring the big time money, institutional money into this to drive it. If you look at where we are at with crypto right now, in terms of the people who know about crypto, the amount of people and the market capitalization of crypto is like very low. This thing, think about the usage. Right now, about 2 or 3%, 2% of people who know about crypto have crypto exchanges. Think about when you get to 40% of the world population. Look what we're talking about. You see? So we're talking about trillions and trillions of dollars. Some of these coins by themselves, you know, some of these ecosystems by themselves would be 10 trillion, 5 trillion. So guess what? We need to find a balanced solution. And that's why you see the government, because of the fear of what this thing can do, that's why they're coming down hard, because the fear of it. But again, we have to have a balance where we don't give up everything. Absolutely. But at the same time, we can have a sweet spot and a balance where everything works out.
Absolutely. And that's what, you know, one of the things I think we have 5 more minutes just for the sake of time. So what we will do, it seems like, you know, all of these guys, speaking to the audience here, these guys are so fascinated with crypto and problem solving. To have a 1 hour, 30 minutes conversation about utility is not it's not very easy. So we will technically be done with the discussion here in 5 minutes, but you know, you guys are welcome to stay on. We're just we're going to ask our guests if they want to leave, they can leave, but we can, if anyone who wants to stay, we can still keep the chat going. All right, one of the questions I wanted to ask, and that goes to you, Ernesto, here, is the concept of creating a smart contract. So this is the thing where you're creating a smart contract. You're focusing on a decentralized, obviously it's decentralized in a sense, right? So my question is, what are some of the things as a developer or someone who's trying to build this thing, what are some of the things do you consider before getting those codes running? Because what happens is once you initiate that thing and it's just going, you know? And the question too is there a way to be able to go back within a code that's already been published to go and tweak it? Is there a way to do that? Because assuming you come up with a smart contract that's operating, and you want to go back and make some updates within within the code. How do you do that? Is it possible? You got 1 minute to answer that question. Is it possible?
So when it comes to the decentralized governance of these kind of operations, it depends on the structure they form. You know, if the structure is based on voting, then most of the decisions that will be made, most of the action rather that will be implemented will be based on the decision of the votes. You know, so you can create a code. You know, the code can have a specific function to do. But then you may have your team later on may say, let's just say for example, the white paper we wrote, right? That could be your first code. You know, this is how we want to run. But then we have people in the future come and say, we don't like this aspect of it, we want to change it. So now everybody agree on a change. That change will be implemented on the blockchain, update the smart contract to reflect the new change. But then that provision should be made in a code where that can be possible. And also it should be made in the sense that the people who, or the authority that can be able to make that change should be based on the authority of the body that is actually implementing, or the organization around this project or the protocol, right? So now that's why the structure that is forming the code is important. Whichever structure, it could be individual, it could be one person doing this thing, you know, or it could be an organization and it's decentralized. 3 people need to sign first before you make a change, or maybe the whole group. Whatever structure they have is how they're going to implement or make updates to their code and add new information and change things. So, and this is exactly what we're trying to do now. exactly what we're trying to implement in Alkebuleum DAO. And we have a social app that we have created called Bracket Social. This is the first product that, like the window to Alkebuleum. The first version is on Google Play right now. It's called Bracket Social. Is the first version is not 100% all done, but it's like a social platform. You log into it right now, you can start interacting, and then in a few weeks or a month or so, we'll have the function of the Alkebuleum DAO integrated with smart contracts, right, on the Alkebuleum blockchain or on a temporary other blockchain that exists, so that we can experiment and showcase our group how this thing works. We want to get our hands dirty, basically, so we'll start doing things like what we're discussing now. We'll start building a blockchain using a DAO and a smart contracts to compensate our people. So if you work now for Alkebuleum blockchain, or you just do 1 or 2 jobs for us or whatever, you can be compensated fairly just by the smart contract, by what you imported and what you get and stuff like that. And you also request change by sending a proposal. You send a proposal to the DAO, we review the proposal, and we vote upon the proposal. So your proposal say, whatever we are written down, it may not work, and everybody agree with you, that's what we're going to implement, basically. Right. So that's how it works. So yeah, so that's the reason why it's very important. You have to set up this structure well first. If you get it structured wrong, everything else that will follow will be wrong.
So you guys have a built-in consensus mechanism that right upon that voting process of changing or updating the system, the platform automatically updates.
No, so you have the implementers, the people who basically can implement certain things, right? So you have the group, the organization making decisions in terms of how much they can make it. And then when a decision is made, it might be automated. It can be an automated process where or it could be a development process where maybe we'll have to develop something. But before we develop something, there should be an agreement done that is already set up in the structure that agreement have to be. If it's 3 people need to sign before the smart contract can listen to y'all, that 3 people have to sign first, because the smart contract already programmed to listen to certain things. It may not be programmed to listen to 1 person. It may be programmed to listen like 5 different people with different wallet addresses, and they all have to agree before money can move. That's the reason why 1 person cannot move money.
Okay, those are the people in your white paper you call the reputable folks, right? Folks who have some sort of credential in this space.
Right. All right. So in the white paper, with the reputation, what we're discussing is about the validation of the blockchain itself, right? Yeah. So that aspect is like how the blockchain will function. Right. Now, the DAO aspect is slightly different. We have people called facilitators, right? Facilitators are those basically almost like what you talk about reputation. They should have some level of reputation, right? They should have worked with us before. They should have, built up, we should trust them, in a way, or they should have some kind of level of high skill. And then they facilitate the process. Because like we're saying about these organizations, if you don't have that core people that facilitate in this process, then it will fail. Because just in case you have a new tax and everybody, oh, I'm busy, I'm on vacation, I'm doing that, who's gonna run the project, right? It's decentralized. Right. Decentralization is a whole different ballgame from centralized process. Centralized process, you have everybody on salaries. So they have to do the work. Decentralized, they are not on salaries. They're not even on what you might call a contract.
You have to pay. You have to incentivize validators.
Exactly. So it's a different thing. So we're now trying to learn this new thing, because this new thing, we believe if we learn it well, it can make a big change. So that's what we're starting to do now. And the app I mentioned, Bracket Social, I asked everybody, if you have time, go on Google Play. The version of app will be out very soon, maybe a month or 2, and you get it. You log into it, and then you find the Alkebuleum DAO. Subscribe to be a member, and then join us. And let's start working the decentralized format to build a blockchain we're talking about.
Awesome. Now let's get into. I see some hands up here. I don't know, but we're gonna leave this open for our audience now to ask questions. If you have any questions for our guest, this is the time to. We apologize for the whole timing situation, guys. It's really hard to condense the quantity of information, from these conversations. This is very technical conversation, and I'm really applaud the guests for actually simplifying the content here, because it's really hard to even explain some of the concept in crypto. And I think just from the level of presentation today, these guys actually brought things down to the lower level so that folks can understand. So I applaud that. So do we have any questions from our audience here to our guest? I saw we had a hand up. Eddie had his hand up. I think
Eddie said it was okay.
Okay, he's fine. That's right. Okay, cool. Yes.
So let me, if I can, be, let me, while we're waiting for someone to speak to bring up a question, I want to give, just one guidance into, as we look at 2025 and the next bull run. With crypto, you got different categories, and when you do research, so just one information I just want to get out there. This is a gift. And when you look at these different categories, one category right now, like myself and a couple other folks that are reputable in the industry that have been really paying attention to, that would be a big one come 2025, is AI. Artificial intelligence is going to be a big catalyst for the next crypto bull run. And I wanted to make sure, I can put this out there. And with certainty, right, it's almost like you never say never in crypto, but it's looking like the growth alone right now, when you look at the top ones, right, you're talking about projects like, for example, like Graph. You look at things like Ocean Protocol, like Fetch.ai. You're looking at like eExec RLC. Those are just some of the Numeria, DK Cargo. Those are just some of the highest, the top 5, 6 ones with the highest market capitalization of those AI ones. Something to pay attention to. Do your own research, do your own due diligence, but just know that AI is going to be a big catalyst for 2025. Pay attention to that.
Absolutely. And brother Dikemba, a quick question for you too, man. There's been a whole lot of, I know you guys are building a decentralized exchange. And when you really take a look at even with centralized exchanges in the US and in the Western world, they really do not accept the identity, KYC, of African customers, because they don't, like Stephen talked about, we don't have that interoperable system with the West. They can't validate our identity, the authentication of our identity. So with a decentralized, a little different, it's more accessible. But what are some of the things you guys are doing, your company is doing, to make sure that, you guys are not leaving anybody behind?
Yeah, and so so my company, we do use a system called well, for one, I would say this: for a Genius Yield, for the decentralized exchange that we're coming out with and the yield optimizer, that's decentralized. Anybody with a wallet, personal crypto wallet, and some ADA or any other Cardano-based token can use it. It's open to everybody, no matter what country you're in. The only system right now that we have that we do KYC is the Genius X Launchpad, and that's when you do a public sale, when a company is selling their securities and receiving funds in return that's raising for their project. And so there's a lot of laws behind that, simply because there's been, there's a lot of scams and things like that. People raise money and then they disappear into the sunset. And so we do use a company called SumSub, which does KYC. I think it's widely used. I think Binance and a couple other companies do it to do KYC. And they work with a lot of countries to make sure the people who do get accepted are not on any type of lists or things like that. And that includes a lot of different countries, but like you say, some countries are left out, at least for that public sale process. But that's the only one that we have currently that we require KYC. For decentralized exchange and Yield Optimizer, most of our products, anybody can use it. And so I think that's one of the benefits of crypto. And I just want to just put that out to a bigger point. If you think about the asset that's still worth the most for crypto, Bitcoin, I think it's around 330 million, 330 billion right now. And as far as its market capitalization, it got up to, I think, 1.3, 1.4 trillion at its height. That's comparable with companies like Apple and Microsoft. And this is an asset that's totally decentralized, that nobody can control, but it had all of that value. So that really tells you the value of something when it's not controlled by any centralized authority of what it can have. And when it develops open, completely 100% open source, and everybody develops a level of trust in it, that's the value I think that can bring. So I do think we should have more transparency, ways to create standards. But if, like I said before, with the regulatory capture and things like that, those type of things can probably have more limitations than benefits. And over the long run, a true transparent open source way that everybody can participate, I think that's going to have the most utility and most value. I mean, we've already seen that with Bitcoin. I think for future decentralized finance applications and other things, those are the ones that's going to bring the most for society in general.
Absolutely. Guys, I got to say this, man. This is a conversation I'll probably never end, because, you know, these guys, there's so much to talk about in this space. And one of the things we're going to do in the future here, all of our speakers today, we're going to schedule with them a specific time to have a one-on-one interview with them, and we'll be able to share that information with you, because these guys have wealth of information. And because of the time restraint and attention spans, and everybody have something else to do, you know, we have to kind of maybe cut our meeting here now. We thank our speakers for being here. We thank everyone for attending the event today. I hope you learned one or two from it. This is our goal. I'm guessing all the speakers, their goal is to make sure that, you know, they could be a part of this education process too, so that we all can be knowledgeable about what this space is and how we can take advantage and build systems and infrastructure that will really help us and our future generation to come. So I want to thank you all for coming, and I will be reaching out to the speakers and trying to schedule something with them, and we'll keep you guys abreast of when those interviews will be. It will be a one-on-one interview, or it will be with their team. We want to interview Alkebuleum and the whole team on the Alkebuleum blockchain, and we're hoping to get that set real soon. We just have to get confirmation from the team and see when will be the right time. We also hope to interview Big Brother Dikemba, and if he wants to bring some of his team and some of the folks he's working with, so that we can all be knowledgeable about what our brothers and sisters are working on in this space. Brother Steven, we thank you for your research and all of the updates. I get text messages from Brother Steven 3 o'clock in the morning sometimes. Say, check this out, man, check this out, you know? And I'm always excited, because anytime he sends me something, you know it's worth it to take a look at it. And that's the community we're trying to build here. So it's gonna take some time, and it's gonna take a lot of patience, but hey, man, we got to start from somewhere. So I applaud all of you for coming. I want to say thanks to Ms. Joy for making sure and sending all those emails out and reaching out to you guys. She's been really helping with the communication process here, and really helping with making sure that we can really get involved in the community and be able to bring this information to our people. And the most difficult thing about it is sometimes, you know, presenting something to your folks, to our folks, they don't have a whole lot of background in it. There's a lot of skepticism, you know, but it takes a lot of patience, man. You know, you do the best you can. You do the best you can. We always got to do the best we can. And I encourage every one of you, man, whatever thing you're working on, Brother Dikemba, Brother Steven, Ernesto, and your team, Brother Putu, whatever you guys are working on, man, we have to always keep those people in mind who cannot help themselves. And when you look at the world we live in today, we are the people who cannot help ourselves. So we have to build our systems. We have to make sure that little girl that's been born in 10 years from now can grow up in a different world. That's a huge responsibility. You know, that's something that should keep us up at night, trying to solve that. And it's worth it, because you know what? If we do better, we can make her life better. So I want all of you guys to think about that. Thank you so much for coming, and we keep in touch. and we'll keep this community vibrant, and we'll keep our communication tight. So thank you, Oscar. You can stick around if you want to, but you know, I just wanted to officially close. So thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, Steve, yep, thank you. Steven, you can stick around if you want to. I know you got some points. Ernesto,
yeah,
I know you got something to say, man.
Yeah, I wanted to say, I think you guys, you know, are interactive with your platform, you know, from online. I can see a sense of intention behind it. So I think you guys should continue doing what you're doing. It's going to be hard. Yes. To get you know, the positive response from all people that don't know much about it, but you know, in the future, people remember that you guys were one of the first people who started spreading this message, and you will remember something. So even the way you communicated the meeting, the invite, that's the most professional I've seen since I've started doing interviews with different people. So that should tell you that you have set a standard. Yes. And that standard is being observed, or people noticing it. So yes. I think you should keep doing what you're doing. You and your team, I believe you have a team that is working so hard. So you'll keep doing it. It's very professional, and we're happy that our Liberian platform that is even doing such a thing. So
absolutely.
So keep it up.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's what we got to do, man. You guys are professional people, so we have to keep it. We got to keep it 100, man. We can't do it. If you can't keep it professional with your own people, how can you keep it professional with anybody else? So that's the kind of environment we're trying to create too. So, you know, and we applaud all of you for that, for sure. Yep. So yeah, we'll probably we'll close it here from there. We'll talk to you guys later. Thank you so much, brother Dikemba.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Watch out for the next invite. We'll send you guys an email here pretty soon in the next week or so to schedule date.
Good, guys. Yeah. Thank you.
Sir.
Cool.
Appreciate you. Thank you. Thanks.
Take care. Bye, everyone, and thanks again.
Okay, you're welcome.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.